Hello, gents. How are you doing?
All good, man.
Bonjour.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've since lockdown, I've tried to perfect the getting into the podcast and going. And as you can see,
Still
that
haven't done it.
yeah, I still
It
haven't.
looks
done
like you never left lockdown. You're hairier than you were during.
Well, I've changed.
I don't know what's happened. It's weird. It's like you were
Yeah, it's
really
like
well
reverse
groomed
now.
when
Jack and
nothing
George
was available.
changed.
Yeah.
But I've now changed my hairstyle
You hide the
To,
ball.
to disguise the inevitable. I've got enough hair so it doesn't quite look like a comb over yet.
It
So
reminds me of somebody, Jack. Have you ever worked with somebody that used to do something similar to that? Different color hair, but very similar.
where they should have just committed to
Yeah.
going
well, I
bold,
will.
whereas
I will commit to going.
hanging on,
I will
clinging on
commit.
with dear life,
But
like that hairline.
I think, yeah, I think while I've got enough hair and it's dark enough, I think, and I've gone with the curled look. The beard, don't know about the beard. It's just laziness.
What happens, George, if you just be that bald guy where your hair just moves back and then you have like really weird fringe?
It's got to go. It's got at
There's
that
a
point.
point.
I said to Simon on yesterday, wasn't it? If it gets to the point where I think it's fine and everyone else knows it's not, you've got to pull me aside and be like, look.
Definitely telling you, like,
look.
Just get some clippers and go in and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even tell you. Just come in with clippers and start it.
That's enough now, Yeah. So
Stop it.
yeah. So, but yeah, the beard. Remember, I only cut my beard when I cut my hair, so
Oh, I see.
kind of gets a lot of growth, But yeah,
No, it looks nice.
you say that to all the girls. I mean boys. I mean men. I mean women. Whatever. They. I mean they.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend any young.
Politically correct.
Yeah. All right, guys. So Simon and I did. Fortunately, Jack couldn't join us. The podcast level dipped massively because of that in the last one. But last time was at the beginning of when gyms opened, and we talked about getting back into the gym, and the stuff that you should avoid, and how to kind of ease yourself back in. So I wanted to talk today about where to go from there, because it's been what?
A month.
It's been
a bit longer. But 27th, wasn't it, officially?
Yeah, so
just over a month. Yeah,
about a month now. So, you should be back into your program. You should be starting to feel like your strength is coming back, your fitness is coming back. So I just wanted to, give the guys some pointers as to what we think is the next step after the first initial 3 to 4 weeks. So what would you guys do at this point, programming for someone? What would you guys, at the second, this is probably coming up to the second phase, I guess, of programming for people. What would you guys do now, taking someone who hasn't trained at all in lockdown, not the people who have trained, the people who haven't trained at all, they've done their initial 3 to 4 weeks, and now we're going to move the program on. Where'd you go from there?
So for me, it would have been, I wasn't obviously there for the other chat, but what I would have done for this phase just gone would have been just a very basic general prep phase. So basic movements, nothing fancy with sets, reps, or weight, just simple progressive overload, starting lighter than they would have been doing beforehand, and just building each week, building the volume and intensity linearly over the 4 weeks. And then, to be honest, for the next phase, again, it would just be a progression built on top of that. So like a general prep phase 2, if you like. So just, again, progressions on movements, progressions on the sets and reps and the intensity and volume, and just another build phase from there. That's what I would do in terms of sessions.
Do you mean like, so even with, keeping your normal pattern, so if you went straight back in the gym to do back squat, you should still be on back squat now in that second phase, just building in terms of.
I mean, if you're really sufficient at the movement, there's no reason why you couldn't. If you're perfectly fine doing that movement and have done it for ages, there's no reason you couldn't just do that movement still and build it back up. Could easily have regressed it, there's no problem. But if, say, someone came in and was like, no, I've been back squatting, as long as they started probably 50, 60% of whatever their projected max would have been, and then built it up 2.5% or whatever each week, that would have been fine if they were back squatting. But the same for if they were doing regressions of the movements. So even if they're doing goblet squat, same sort of thing.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah. But still sticking to those movement patterns of the squat, push, pull, hinge, and lunge.
Because I think there's so many people do a couple of weeks of training and then they think that it's okay to just jump the gun and start going in the, you know, like you said, they might go goblet squat for a bit and just be like, yeah, I'm ready to back squat now, when really it could be, you know, we've 4 months of lockdown. You might be all right with just going on the goblet squat for a bit longer, increasing the intensity, adding some more single leg work, or bringing on the barbell split squats instead of dumbbell split squats and building that up. Because people are just so gun-ho about, well, I used to squat this and I used to be able to lift that, so I should just go into it. But if you haven't squatted for 4 months, I mean, that's a hefty amount of time. You can't expect to gain it back in 4 weeks of training.
Yeah, well, taking it on a personal level, I did squat over lockdown, but because I didn't have a squat rack, I had to clean and then shoulder press it onto my back. That limits the amount of weight I can move. So I wasn't, and upping the intensity was really hard. Like the weights that I were lifting before, I'm just not near them. And if I did try to go near them, I'd just be wrecked. So yeah, that's for someone who has trained through the whole of lockdown. You know, imagine not for the 4 months. So yeah, I think I definitely agree and think we could have multiple phases of. So I've started talking to my clients about the program's not changing over the weeks, but more evolving. When I give them a new program, I've kind of stopped using "we're going to change the program" now. I've started saying stuff like "we're going to evolve the program or update the program," just so they're starting to understand that, hey, we're on the same line here. It's not going to look that different. There might be some minor changes in reps and intensity or whatever it might be for that phase, but I want people to start understanding that they're not going to get a whole different new thing. There's just going to be upgrade, maybe a new exercise in there that they haven't done, but
there seems to be this sort of like, there seems to be this thing in the fitness industry where, and again, I use Instagram and all that sort of stuff for, you know, when somebody comes out with this, like, oh, this is my lower body training, and it's a workout that they don't even actually do themselves. And somebody's like, oh my God, that exercise is amazing. That must be what she did to get that leg development, that bum development. It's just not. And the temptation is they change your workouts drastically, I think, every couple of weeks. Like how much, well, you, Jack, you're in the strength and conditioning big time, and you used to do it a lot. How often are the exercises changed? Like they're only developed and progressed, but they're not.
You just progress each one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Evolve it. You evolve rather than.
Yeah, evolve it. But like, I mean, you could be back squatting for an entire year as your main A1 exercise. And that's okay but in that year, you've changed sets and reps and intensity 12 times. Yeah, that's a different stimulus on your muscle. You don't have to have a new exercise, because I think what I'm getting at is that it takes a long time to develop the skill of an exercise. You cannot develop the skill of an exercise in 4 weeks. Like, you know, if you're doing step ups and trying to get the step up, the reverse elevated split squat, you know, they're essentially the same single leg exercise with different intensity and slightly different loading and so on. But I mean, there is a lot of progression to get there.
Months worth.
Yeah,
months worth.
There's a lot. Like you don't just be like, oh, I've done step ups for 2 weeks and now I'm amazing at step ups, so I'll just do barbell split squats.
Yeah.
Like, have you done a barbell step up?
You have to spend time learning anything. You don't do like 4 weeks of Duolingo and you know French. Like, it doesn't work like that. It takes ages. Like you just have to keep going and keep plugging away, and then it's a skill that you continuously do. Otherwise, if you get kind of good at step ups for 4 weeks and then don't do them because 3 phases have changed and you come back to them, you might maybe have maintained some strength because you've been doing similar movements, but the skill level and the movement pattern hasn't really been trained as much. So you kind of have to start again. So why would you do that? Just do them all at once.
Yeah.
Totally. I think the internet though, I see so many people just doing such random exercises, and I'm like, you don't know what that's from or what's it doing. You've just
like the
seen
swipe workout thing.
The swipe here for this, and they're like, oh, I'll try that today, and then they never try it for 6 months. You're like, how have you developed on that?
How can you progress?
I mean? The top athletes in the world who have the best physiques in the world and the most efficient ones use pretty much all the same exercises. Do you know what I mean? Like they use all very similar exercises. They just do them and execute them really well. Like somebody doing a split squat that, like, an elite level sprinter or something like that, is going to do that a lot better than, you know, your average Tom, Dick and Harry. They're going to be doing that very efficiently and very powerfully using the right muscles. It's just, I think, in fast food world.
Yeah. So what?
And one of the key things for development is progressive overload. How can you progressively overload something if you stop doing it every 4 weeks? It doesn't make sense. So in order to have that key pillar, in order to get stronger and get better, you need to continually progressively overload that movement.
This is they used to sell this is a bit of a tangent, but they used to sell a personal training development course by NASM. It was like this 12-week thing where they took you on and showed you what to do. Anyway, I was working at this one place, and the personal trainer there at the time basically broke. He was like, well, in 12 weeks this is what you do. So broke the 12 weeks up into 3-week phases. He had somebody in here first time in the gym. They were doing, so it went endurance, hypertrophy, strength hypertrophy, strength and power, right? This is somebody who's looking for standard weight loss, 50-year-old woman, little bit overweight. She went from doing 15 reps on like a really low step up on week 1, week 12, she was doing clean and jerks.
Wow.
Because in that program was like, this is the phases you do.
This is block.
Oh, I'll just do that. And that's how I do it. Every individual has to be on power at the end.
Yeah, the block system doesn't work unless you're like a Russian athlete from the 80s.
She literally every 3 weeks she had a brand new program with brand new exercises. Like that woman got nothing but more tired and with less money in her bank account. No result.
Bad, isn't it?
So where are you at then, Simon, with the programming for your guys? Is it starting to ramp up a little bit?
The same in terms of programming now, like especially with my clients now. So we're in like the phase 2. Some of them are coming to the end of the phase 2 because I do 3-week phases on mine. But I mean, A1, A2, A3, A4 exercises are pretty much the same. Or even the first 4, they might not be A1, A4, but the first 4 exercises have not really changed. The assisted exercises at the end are changing.
Yeah.
I'm just increasing either the intensity of them or the difficulty of them. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm on a step up for, let's say, an assistant exercise, the step up's going to be a side step up, or it's going to be a barbell step up, or a front loaded step up. I'm changing how hard the exercise is and the challenge of the exercise, because them people are still not ready. They're not ready to go into the big weights. They're not ready for super volume on there. They're not really ready for that level yet because they're still getting sore. So I've got to take care of that. Results are still happening. It's not like they're not. We're still training really hard. It's just I can't be pushing them to the absolute limit yet because injury is going to rear its ugly head. But like Jack was saying, work on progression. Simply for me, I'm doing phases of in and out of intensity. So, we start at a higher rep range between the 10s and 12, sometimes 15 assisted ones. I've brought it down to like 8s and 6s. I'll probably phase it back up again to 10s again to give them a little respite. And then I might bring it down again if the goal fits the case. But you know what I mean? I'm being really soft with easing people back into heavy loads again. It's been, 5 months, some people.
Yeah, it's a long time, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing that I'm very slowly bringing back in is intensity, but I am starting to pick up some volume for people. Whereas I think for one person today, where they were starting with like 3 rounds on everything. I think the A exercise they did today, but in fairness, this person trains about 3 times a week, 3-4 times a week, so it's a unique example. So, but you're starting to push like the 4-5 sets now, and the reps are starting to go up. But I very much wanted to focus on stability first, like you guys were saying, kind of the movement, get the movement right. And I'm kind of trying to analyze if anything's changed as well, without going. We need an assessment. I'm kind of going, right, how have they changed? Are there any red flags? Are they looking, all these things that we do on an assessment? I'm trying to do that in the first couple of weeks. And if I felt comfortable that they were okay, then I'd start to, I started to push now. So, but some people I've kept on that, that say very, very slow progressions, and I've given them more work to do at home. more assistant work to do at home, just for the time being.
There's one move that I've used quite a bit, and it's just a floor hip thrust. Just because you can load it, you can't really mess it up. The movement itself is just like if you can glute bridge, you can do this basically. And then the one thing I've liked about it is I actually loaded it pretty heavy, like fairly heavy with quite a lot of people, very quickly. One, because you can't really mess it up, but the way I have it done is there's no real eccentric control. You just drop down, so it's all concentric. So there's basically no soreness. Really, and it's something you can load up very quickly and get the intensity super high. Like there's someone I didn't like. She was training over lockdown with bits with dumbbells and stuff. Like she's very experienced lifting, so I knew we could push her pretty quickly. She's already like hip thrusting 140, and it's already a PB. But just because, like, she was sore the first day, but not like where she couldn't walk. She felt it easily could train 2 days later. But just because sometimes you have to be a bit smart and think about, okay, you could still go quite heavy on some movements if they're easy, like that movement. But if you take the eccentric part out of it, the soreness isn't going to be there as much as there would be if you did like a hip thrust off the bench or something.
There's more travel. That's a good idea, actually. And also, like you said, the actual exercise itself is, because you can't, if you're lying flat in the bar, the bar's not always on your hips, so you've got a little bit of movement there to generate, don't you? But because it's a shortened range, there's less to go wrong.
And you're safe, you're on the floor. Like, it's not going to crash into you or anything. You can't, So it's just one easy one to load up super quickly.
It also teaches good head position, I think, like just thinking about it now, because your neck and upper back stay on the ground. When you put somebody on the hip thrust on the bench, they're gyrating.
It goes all over.
Like on the floor, it's solid, it's there, and they don't tend to arch. You ever get it when somebody does a hip thrust and they really overarch the lower back and try and
go too far into it?
Drag it up. It's almost like they're trying to pull it up with their spine.
That's it. And then you wonder why they're feeling their back and their glutes aren't really working through them.
Do you know a good one, a similar one to that? It gives you a bit more range. If you've got a bench that can go onto a decline, you can lie on the decline with your back halfway off the bottom.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Then you can do. I saw a couple of the guys doing it here, and I thought that's a good idea, because again, it gives you
that's pretty good actually.
It doesn't give you that much more range, but it gives you enough more range, if you know what I mean.
Nice angle for your body to be at as well. Nice supported position, right?
Totally. I wanted to ask you guys as well. You started first, so let's start with you, Simon. What do you think you've learned over lockdown? Just could be about business, could be about anything. Take-home points. What have you learned?
Sugar is crack. Which basically is what happened. No, but you know what? Like because of the way I dieted and the way that I approached it, where I saved my calories up and had the food at the end and saved my snacks in there, it's actually, I found it more difficult to quit the snacking.
Right.
Like just stop the sugar intake. Like never before have I ever struggled with that, but because I purposely dieted in that way where I can have the treats at the end, and when you're in lockdown, you're eating out of your cupboards all the time, you're snacking on the foods and in between the day and yada yada yada. I find that it's hard. The body is sitting there being like, ooh, sugary stuff, and it does nothing for you, but it's hard to mentally just get yourself out of that lull or out of that cycle of just being like, oh, I have some sugar, and I don't think it's addictive in terms of the need for it, because I can sit here now for 10 hours, 12 hours and work and not even think a second about a piece of sugar or sweets or chocolate, anything like that. I think it's more of the addictive cycle of the day. Oh, I'm home, I'm chilling now. There's some sweets. Which is what our clients stuff. Where they come home and the wine o'clock. Oh, it just hits 8 o'clock and I just like that glass of wine. I don't know why, it just relaxes me. It's the association we've built with that. So myself, I created it myself, where I just saved all my calories in the day and then I snacked in the evening. And then now when I get to the evening, I'm like, snacking. Snacking. And I'm realizing that, like, I've created a new eating habit for myself that it's not good.
Yeah.
So then it also then makes me rethink the case of the if it fits your macros kind of outfit. It still works, and it 100% works. I proved it. You know, I got lean as hell on it.
Yeah.
It's not
But
optimal then.
it's not optimal, man. It's not. It's put me into a cycle where I've now sat there and associated with, well, when I come home and when I chill out, that's when I can have my treats.
You've
And then
potentially
that's every
created
day my
about,
body's getting treats.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that habit
That's
creation.
Yeah, you created about, so yeah, that's something.
Yeah, I created it because it's been 4 months. It's been 4 months I created the
Yeah.
habit. It's a long time of enjoyment.
It's easy, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if it tasted like crap, it wouldn't be that easy to make a habit, you know. So I think it's changed my opinion on how to deal with the diet and to be careful with just allowing people to save all their calories for snacks. Because it's creating a binge type eating and a bad association with food.
So based on that, would you say the same sort of thing over the course of a week? Don't try to minimize the amount of times you save up calories so you can have a big night out.
Yeah.
So you're talking the same.
So what I'm doing now is that I'm purposely having my potatoes, having my rice, all that sort of stuff in a day. I'm putting carbs on my breakfast now, so I know that I don't have enough in the evening.
Yeah.
Because I always eat my evening meal first, and then I just know that there's not enough in there. So I'm purposely just spreading the calories out through the day. But it ain't easy. It's not just jump in there. That's it. And I'm like a robot, much like probably all of us are. We can just sort of switch on and off, but it's not easy.
So if you're finding it hard,
think the strategy going forward.
So if you're finding it hard, people who have
every day,
if people have an emotional connection, more of an emotional connection with food, they're going to find it even harder. So good. That's interesting. So that's what you're doing with yourself now. You're spreading those type of carby foods out.
Spreading carbs out. That's it. I'm putting more calories into all our meals now.
Right. Yeah.
So I have less in the evening. So because I don't need the food, it's not a case of need. It's just my mind is saying, "Ooh, this is snack time.
Nice,
I have my dinner snack time."
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, and
it's association with the thing. Though. It's all about association. Like I was at a friend's house, and his dad, it was like 10 o'clock, had a little brandy with breakfast, and we were like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "It separates the day for me. Like he used to do it all the time on a Sunday." So then in his brain, like because he works obviously a lot and long periods during the day. And he used to do it a lot, especially in busy periods, because then he knew, oh, this is Sunday. So I can do this. It separates the day. I mean, not a recommendation probably, but it's something that, but it's all to do with association. You associate things with different things. So that's what he associated, like, it was that differentiated the day for him so that he didn't go and work.
Right.
It's such an easily done thing, you know, like the smokers in the world, when they try and quit, it's not usually just, I know the nicotine is an issue there, but the habits they've created around smoking. I get up, I have my breakfast, I have a fag. You know, I eat my lunch, I have a fag. I get stressed, I have a fag. They have all these things where they associate, right, when this happens, I smoke. So when you take the fag away, they're like, I don't know what to do in these situations because my whole day of habits have been built around this one habit.
And you can do the same. You can say the same with eating. Like this happens, especially if it's an emotional connection. Or this has happened. A bad thing happened. They go and eat, or they a certain type of comfort food.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's such a. I used to struggle when I was younger. You know, we'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm so overweight. Oh, I feel so bad about myself. This makes me feel better. But it makes me overweight. Oh wow, I'll eat more because I feel better. Well, and it's like that cycle of I feel terrible because I'm overweight. But eating food makes me feel better. But then it makes me overweight. But eating food makes me feel better about being overweight. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's something very, very nice about yummy food, isn't there? You know, it does make you feel good. Jack, same question to you, mate. What have you learned over lockdown?
What did I learn? I learned a lot about how to handle builders in the side. A lot to do with that.
They're not normal people, man. They are a
different breed. Yeah, exactly that. Different breed. It's funny when you ask them to do something, they get annoyed. It's like, that's your job.
You know this that I'm giving you. You see that?
Exactly. Yeah. So there was that. There's a lot of lessons with that actually. But then also one of the main things I learned, I think, is actually which I think is a skill that I've been able to take into sessions now, is programming without all the nice equipment and the ease of having that stuff and having that challenge where, okay, we're limited. How can I be a bit more creative? Because it's easy when you're in a space, you have all the nice equipment that does this easy movement pattern for you, but it's like, okay, how can I create this movement pattern for someone where I don't have the machine or the equipment that is super easy to set up? So like I don't know about you, but one of the main things, if people were limited in equipment, so they didn't have any dumbbells or TRX or anything like that, it was, okay, how can I get a pull movement in if they didn't have a pull-up bar? It's like, okay, and so like, I had people hanging underneath trampolines, pulling themselves up for like an inverted row, just like, how can I get, because otherwise everyone is just doing like push-ups for
100%. Just sorry to jump in, but the pull was always the one I would sat there.
You're just saying,
the program, and you're like,
what can I do?
Do you know what, Lynn?
I'm like Serrano presses or trap 3 pulls.
Loads of shoulder.
I even came to this one where you're on the floor and you do contractions back, like iso holds and reverse plank.
That's a good one. I didn't think about that.
My client Lynn gave me an idea. She for one of my kettlebell classes, she filled her bag with a load of tins, and I thought, that's interesting. So I got people to fill their backpacks up with books, tins, and got them to do bent over rows. So that was, mate, honestly, for the last 3 weeks of lockdown, it changed my world. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that makes so much sense. Yeah, I used the backpack thing, like filling a backpack and just using it to weight up other movements. But I didn't think about doing that.
Honestly,
that's so obvious now.
Well, not
Jack, what about your, sorry to jump in there, but what about your sleep as well? Remember you were getting a lot of clients to focus on sleep, because I've actually used some of them techniques, and especially when chatting to you and your man from is it the Athlete Tribe?
Lee.
Lee. Just having that routine before bed where you set the alarm before, like, right, 9 o'clock, I need to start shutting down, so I'm going to go to bed at 10:30. That's made a big difference for, like, I've used it on a few people, and it's helped such, because all people get lost and stuff. They're doing something and they don't want to put it down until it's too late, and then they're so stimulated by the time they're trying to sleep that they can't sleep.
Exactly. And like another thing that goes with that sort of routine making is the use of alarms. Everyone uses alarm to get up, but you can use it to go to bed as well. So you can set an alarm, whatever time you want, 8 o'clock, like, okay, bed prep time. It's starting, so maybe the TV comes off. 8:30, okay, phone's off, the alarm's gone off or whatever, and then next alarm, or however you want to use it, 10 o'clock, in bed. 9:30, like, you've got time to read, another alarm goes off, okay, bedtime, then you're asleep. So it's just little things like that, 100%. But what I found actually is some people were able to make use of the time to really concentrate and develop their sleep, whereas for some people actually went the opposite way because of the way their work is, whether they work in finance and things like that with different time zones, and their actual accessibility in their work for other people was greater, because it's a lot easier for people to be like, I'm not in the office, so no, and like they don't have their computer with them. Whereas when you're at home, especially these people like who work across different time zones, the time zone, like if they're East Coast of America, they know they're there. They know they've got their computer there.
Yeah.
They know it's all there. So they ping them a message like, I know you're there. So 10 o'clock, we're having a meeting. And it's like, fuck off. No, I don't want to, but they have to. So it actually made it worse for some people, just because working from home, they're more available and the work is there. It's not like I said, when it's at the office, you can separate the two. But when it's in your living room,
you literally have that little reply message being like, sorry, I'm out of office, I'll get back to you in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows you're there. So
it must have been so hard to be disciplined with that, actually.
Super hard.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned is kind of on that is I've got a bit better at separating. I've so easy to let work consume all, and it kind of happened in lockdown. I was probably one of those, Jack, that I ended up working loads in lockdown, but I have, like, one of the hardest things I find is saying no to people. Can I move that to that time? It becomes inconvenient for me, eats into the time that the very limited time I have with my family, and it's hard. I don't want to say no to people, because I want them to, but amazingly, and I think you've said this to me loads of times, Simon, is the minute I say no, all of a sudden their diary becomes more available elsewhere, you know, and it's a time that they said an individual said they might not be able to do, you know, they can somewhere else. And, you know, I of course want to be flexible because we're a service industry.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to become more disciplined with the times that I've set, right, I'm home here with the family, not working. I've started to become a little bit more disciplined. And I've become more disciplined at getting my work done when it needs to get done, rather than building up into 3 or 4 hours of solid work, which does eat into and stresses me out. And I didn't realize it stressed me out.
You know what, I find I think you already do it, Jack, from looking at your schedule. You kind of do it anyway, but time boxing.
Yeah.
Where you just basically schedule out your day, where you block it out. I'm blocking mine in half-hour blocks. So if I have an hour in between clients, it's two tasks to complete, and there's half an hour each, and I do what I can, and I leave it at that. And eventually, over time, you become more efficient at the time used or whatever. But I find that that's so helpful.
100%.
Because you don't procrastinate then.
No, exactly. It's all there for you, and you can see it in your diary. And that's something that just reminded me, like something I could say I learned over lockdown. There's a couple points I've got where people need that appointment. You can't, people need that in their diary. If people have it in their diary, it's an appointment, it's accountable, they see it, session with Simon, session with George. When that was taken away over lockdown, people get a little bit lost. Like the novelty of lockdown and everything, maybe for the first few weeks, and it's like, crap, I don't have that routine. I don't have that normal Tuesday afternoon slot that I would always have with George. And then I don't know if you noticed, like some people initially, when they were like remote sessions, like, no, not for me. 4 weeks in, they're like, yeah, I need my session. I need my session.
You still got that.
You still do it, exactly. Yeah. And it goes with the point you were saying, George, where saying no, but it's the same principle with anything in terms of if you want to achieve something with your goals. There's a saying, if you say, I can't remember the right way around now. If you say yes to something, you say no to something else. Always. Yeah. So, George, if you said yes to taking on that client, you're saying no to spending that extra hour, 2 hours with your family. If you say, and it's the same with people with their health and fitness goals, they're always relaxed. If they say yes to those few drinks after work that may go on later than you want, you're saying no to your sleep and recovery that day.
Yeah.
Essentially, there's always a balance. And then you've got to think what's more valuable to you. If you're really serious about your health and fitness goal, it's a trade-off. If you're saying yes, okay, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Yeah. And then that's the same, like, that's a good thing you've learned, George, is that if you say yes to this work, I'm going to lose out on time with family and everything. Yeah. So which one's more important at the end of the day?
Yeah, because I definitely didn't realize, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, because I don't feel any stress ever when I'm in the moment, but I definitely felt the stress levels just drop at the beginning of lockdown. The first 2 weeks where I wasn't quite as busy, it was just like,
oh yeah,
I slept better. I was I was much happier. I was probably less snippy with Sally and the kids, So I think, that's another point. Like, in order to achieve that, and we've talked about stress on these podcasts before, in order to achieve that, there has to be some level of, actually, I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, I'd like to, I can't at the moment. At that time.
I quite enjoyed lockdown just because you're the same. In the mornings, in this game, there's no casual, easy morning. You're up, you get straight to the gym, the studio, wherever you need to be, because you've got an early session. There's no, I'll make myself a coffee and just ease into the day. Whereas in lockdown, because it was remote, you were there.
Yeah.
It was I was still getting up at the same time. My first session was at 7. Yeah. So the mornings were way more relaxed. It wasn't get up, literally put clothes on, cycle in. It was get up, I can have my coffee, I can check my emails beforehand, do anything I need to do, then the first session.
Yeah, you could literally, like you said in one of the early podcasts, you could literally be with the clock, like.
69.
Yeah, that was good.
But also, just going back on what you said there, Jack, with the whole trade-offs and the saying yes to stuff, like that's so valuable, I think, for people who don't remind themselves of their goal.
Yeah,
and I mean
100%.
that because then, you know, when somebody comes in, they're like, yeah, I want to do this, I want to, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to lose a stone in 8 weeks, 10 weeks. That's what I'm looking for. And you're like, cool. But then from that point onwards, they don't ever remember what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So they're going out and they're gallivanting around, eating the foods that they are and making the choices that they're making, and not reminding themselves as a goal. Well, you know that when you set a goal and you really focus on that goal, that you start basing all your choices from that goal there onwards. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. They lose 10 pounds. I need to be in a deficit of 200 calories a day for the 10 weeks. And I need to train 3 times a week. So then it means when you come to putting something in your mouth, if you woke up that day and be like, I am losing this weight. I need to make sure that when you go to eat something, you constantly just being in that, like, is it going to help me or is it not going to help me?
Is this helping achieve my goal? Yeah. Is this saying it's the same thing? Is saying yes to this, meaning a no to my goal, essentially? It's like a little pathway. It says no to this, which says no to this, which says no to my goal.
That's it, yeah. And it's all them steps in, but it's so valuable, I think, for people just to got to make that decision. And if they played that question in your head, you know, right, if I have these drinks, is that going to help me with my goal that I'm paying?
Yeah.
You know, I'm paying £120 a week for a personal trainer to help me try and get there.
Exactly.
Like the answer is going to be no, and when they find that answer no, it will make that decision a little bit easier for themselves. But just people don't remind themselves of their goals enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you got personal trainers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Because we're there being like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Remember we wrote this down. Remember that we wrote.
Remember you made an agreement.
Yeah. Some people just avoid, like, I spend every week being like, so what the goals? And they're like, give them the forms. They're like, I know what the goal is. You need to tell me though. But I know what the goal is. Tell me, because if I tell you, you're not going to do it. So tell me.
Very true.
Yeah. I feel like how's your training going, guys? Are you on it? Are you know is it going all right?
Yeah, my training's been all right because like my training didn't really stop that too much. It was all right. And then like we're quite lucky here. We got loads more equipment just come in. So we had a delivery today actually. The rest of a nice little dumbbell rack to go a little bit heavier, which is always good. But yeah, so I'm just sticking with the usual split I have. When football starts back up again, which is starting to now on Sundays, I'll probably have to adapt the way my week is. But at the moment, it's just been upper lower split.
You
Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Yeah, I did all last season as well.
How did I not know this?
Yeah. Just like Sunday League, Hackney Marshes.
Yeah. What do you play? Socialise. Roughly. What position do you play?
Centre mid, CDM.
Oh yeah.
CDM.
Just controlling.
Yeah.
That's what you say. Yeah, no big deal. I just control the whole pitch.
It's good though.
I always wanted to play CDM, and they were just like, no, right back. you know the worst player on the team.
You're that player.
Yeah. Put him in right back. He can do the least damage at right back.
Sorry. To get us back on track, probably. A good tip I think to take into which because the phase has already happened. There's been 4 weeks of people returning to gyms and stuff. I've not been in a public gym. So I don't know what the whole process is like in general. I know some places where you have apps
I think it's still booking system. I haven't been in one, but it's a booking system.
Yeah, like, I know like there's one there's like the gym group. There's one that you can just turn up, but I don't know how it works with equipment and everything. But especially if you're we've spoken about it before on here, and I've done posts about it on social media, is the ability to be adaptable with your sessions and not have the blinkers on and be like, I've got my piece of paper here, I have to do bench press today. Especially now, that ability to have back pocket exercises where it all goes back to those fundamental movements. The whole thought process is, okay, I should be doing dumbbell bench press today, or I should be doing barbell bench press today, whatever program you're on. Okay, that's all being used. The likelihood of me being able to use it in the next 20 minutes is probably pretty slim, because I imagine jumping in and out with people is not a thing. You can't do that.
Because obviously this is a commercial.
So then you have, Oh yeah, exactly. So you have to be like, okay, that's a horizontal push. What else can I do where I'm going to get the same movement pattern? I'm not going to miss out on the adaptations that this session wants me to get through. So like, it's been important anyway, but now more than ever, having those back pocket exercises and not being in love with one exercise and freaking out when you can't do it.
Yeah, you're right.
So important now.
We got. So I'll just quickly explain what the guys do here. They're doing it really well, actually. They've got a booking system in their website. You book for 50 minutes, so no one crosses over on the hour, or minimal crossover on the hour when people walk in and walk out. So that it works really well, and people have been really good. People have been really compliant. But we talked about on the last podcast, Simon and I, where we said, if no one's designing your programs for you, I've been doing this for my clients when they're not in with me, is create a program where you're going to use the bench for 3 exercises in a row, for example. So
you can stay in one place.
Bench row, bench press, dumbbell row, dumbbell press, feet elevated hip extension, or box, or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter it just depends on you. But that's all of a sudden you've got 3 exercises in 20 minutes there. So clever designing of programs, maximizing your spaces and your time, because like you said, now more than ever, it's more important, because most gyms who have got that sort of system are saying, hey, you can't have an hour, because at that pinch point on the hour,
there's a clash.
Yeah, we don't want people coming in and out and being like, oh, hi, sorry. You know, we don't want that. You know, with a cough.
I would say dumbbells are the answer for most versatility.
Yeah.
Like over barbell and everything else, like dumbbells, you don't have to have a rack, you don't have to have a bench, you don't have to, you know what I mean? You could do floor presses, you could do push-ups using them, get an extra depth, you could do lunges, split squats, front-loaded squats, you know what I mean, goblet squats. Just the exercises continue on forever.
Sure.
And you don't have to have a whole lot of them. You could pick, you know, especially for chest, you could do a chest press in a row with the same weight. Probably a split squat, you know, and you get away with a lot of it there. Whereas, you know, if you're sitting there, like you said, stuck to bench press and don't know what to do off that, like you're going to be stood around for most of your session.
You'll ruin the whole session.
Piece of equipment in the room.
And especially by the sounds of it, you've got to maximize your time. If you've only got that slot, make the most of each time. That was a good plug, George. I hope you got paid well for that.
Yeah, always.
I hope they're paying you well for this. That was good.
The one, just before you move on from that, the one thing I do want people to understand is that it is not okay if you're doing chest, shoulders, and triceps, and you can't get on the bench press. It is not okay to start training triceps first. Please don't do that. It's not going to be smart for anybody. If you're going to miss out anything, miss out on the triceps and train the other 2. But do not do triceps and then be like, oh, my bench press sucks now. I don't know what's wrong with it. I just don't feel that good. If you just took out one of its sisters.
Yeah. One of its sisters?
One of its
sisters.
Assistant.
And I tried, Jack. I tried.
You tried to hold back. Not very well, but
I couldn't help it. You know?
Maybe we should pay you to. Seems that system works well for you.
Yeah. It worked very well.
You know, it's like I get it sometimes in here where people are like, they come in and they do squats and they're not doing that well in squats, and I'm like, what's happened? I don't know. I just went for a run just before I went in here, but I don't think it's that.
I don't think.
Sorry, what? You did what? Oh, you went and trained the legs before you came in here? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that totally won't fatigue your legs at all. No.
Yeah, it can't be that.
It was probably the pull-up you did yesterday.
Here's something I want to say. I know we've talked about, like, anyone who's yet to start the gym and is thinking about it. I know we've talked about, like, going a bit easier and everything like that. But also, man, you've still got to train. Do you know what I mean? I see people coming and doing one round on everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. Like, we've all done assessments on people who haven't trained their whole lives. And when they come in the gym, we don't go, well, just do one set of that. Because, you know, come on, you still got to work, you know, you've still got to create some sort of stimulation there. Don't be silly.
I don't think anybody's achieved anything from one step.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Metzer will tell you otherwise, but
Yeah.
bodybuilding.
No, but even Mike Mentha, he did 3 or 4 warm-up sets, which are about 80% maximum effort.
This is what people forget. And like he always goes like, yeah, we'll do 1 rep, and then he'll make them do a rep, and then he'll make them do a forced rep straight after, and then he'll make them do an eccentrically loaded. Yeah. And it's like, I look at the rep, and it's the 3 reps that he does with people, and they last about 60 seconds. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, yeah. But anyway, we went off topic a little there, but when you're coming in...
No, it's true. Yeah, there's a fine balance,
crazy,
isn't there?
Yeah. Don't go crazy.
Yeah, there's a fine balance.
I think you're right.
Obviously, that wasn't...
What did you say?
You broke off there, Simon.
Yeah, it froze.
Obviously, it wasn't important enough, but, Simon.
Some great freeze frames there,
Yeah,
Simon. They were good.
Say that last thing again.
Yeah.
You definitely flipped off.
Yeah.
I wonder if people.
I think you are right in raising that point, though. Like, if you're doing 10 reps and you're doing 3 rounds of 10 reps, you should still be looking for a loss of 1 or 2 reps by the 3rd round. You know what I mean? You're still looking for a bit of fatigue in there. That doesn't mean you go to failure. It means that you cannot compete or complete the next 2 reps with good technique.
Yeah, 2 in the tank.
Like, you need to be going to at least that.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
There's no progression. There's no need for your body to get better.
Yeah.
It's a good point that we could probably cover in another one, where probably people don't train, once they are fully up and running, don't train at intensity that's right enough. Like, if on your 3rd, 4th set, your first rep is the same as your 10th rep or your 8th rep, probably go heavier. Because it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't find the first one just as the same as the 6th one or the 10th one, or however many reps you're doing. And it's probably a whole point about in terms of actually picking the right weight.
Yeah.
How do you know if you're using the right one?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why people get mad at personal trainers, because we're all constantly moving weight up, but we're trying to find. You know what I mean? We do a set and we think, oh, that was good, but you have. I could have made you do 15 of them.
Yeah, you could have done 5 more and you would have been fine. They're like,
so I'm going up until we find that age.
I say that to some people. I put that on, I'm going to put the weight up on the next one. And goes, why? And it's like,
hey,
that's my
again.
That's my job. Trying to make you better.
The one comment that I definitely always put weight up on is, "Oh no, that's heavy enough. Don't put that up." I put that.
Yeah, that's heavy enough.
I put it up because they're just like, I don't want to do anymore.
You should tell them.
Yeah, that's heavy enough. While they're swinging their arm around, they're fine. It's just like, Yeah, absolutely. Gents, I'm going to have to call it a day there, if that's all right.
No, that's perfect. Perfect time.
So can we just next time, what we're gonna cover? We've discussed this beforehand between us. We're going to cover a little bit on nutrition around COVID, because there's been a lot of information that's been coming out there, and we just want to give you guys the best advice as to what we think you should do to optimize your nutrition. And secondly, we are going to discuss the government's, what do they call it?
The government's guidelines and their proposals.
The type 2 diabetes fight.
Apparently, yeah. So, obesity and because obviously COVID highlighted the great issue with it. Don't know why it wasn't recognised before, but
we'll cover this.
Just to go through their proposal. Exactly.
So we'll have a little bit of a look at it ourselves. I think you already have, Jack, haven't you? And then we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
100%.
Gentlemen, a real pleasure.
Pleasure as always. Yeah. Oh, Jinx, personal padlock.
Still a thing.
Enjoy your sessions.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I will see you next time.
Yeah. See you next week, guys.
Bye.